Hello, hello, welcome everybody. I'm Jev. Yes, Triple V. The accent, by the way, is purely Kiwi. I read old stories for children, so we keep this a family-friendly channel by having bad word blockers, banning bots, and preventing spam. So that means new followers need to wait a few minutes before they can join in the chat. Since these stories are so old, they're now in the public domain, which means they are free to read for anyone and by anyone, the way many Christmas songs are. The digital versions I read are from Project Gutenberg, and you'll find the link for that below. The physical ones are just old books my family has lying around. Sometimes I'll even show them to you. These, by the way, are live reads. Think of them as bedtime stories rather than actual audiobooks. You get the benefits of my mistakes, distractions, explanations, and terrible attempts at accents, along with plenty of chat and interruptions as we find out about things in the story. If you need to do work or chores, then that's fine. Just come and lurk. Please adjust your volume to suit. There are captions available if you have to be quiet or you have hearing challenges, but be warned, sometimes the captions aren't always that accurate. I am a member of the Codex, an awesome group of reading streamers on Twitch, people from many walks of life who share their love of reading, and you'll find links to the Codex reading team and our Discord server below. A special feature of the Codex Discord is the security channel for those of you who stream or moderate. You'll find lots of practical, useful information to help keep your stream and your community safe. So, hang around and come discover adventure with me. You never know what we'll find. Just a minute, I'm trying to finish cleaning my glasses, and I actually managed to hit the right button that time. Right, I think I'm... Yes, I do actually wander around with really filthy glasses a lot of the time, but sometimes you just have to stop and clean them. And by the way, this thing which keeps disappearing is a microfiber cloth, but I haven't found any others like it. These days, if I look for ones that are suitable for cleaning glass and stuff like that, they're a weave that's kind of a waffle pattern to the texture, and it's kind of like a smooth surface, but not quite. This feels more like chamois, which is those leather polishing or drying cloths that a genuine chamois, made out of a type of leather or suede from a chamois goat. and very, very soft, and it's got that sort of a texture on the top of it, and it works really well for cleaning glasses, like spectacles. So there you go. I need to keep on looking for them. I picked it up at the supermarket, I don't know, years ago, and I still use it. Right, so that's it. That's it for today. No, it's not. Let's run some tips and you guys can settle in, and then we will get going with the rest of what we're up to today, which should include some reading. I don't know. Let's see.
Hello, and welcome to the stream. I'm Jev. Now, let's talk about our 6 things to enjoy the stream. Number 1, get your drink. It can be water, whatever you like, but take care of yourself and hydrate. Number 2, when I hydrate, you should as well. Did you hydrate just now? Number 2, get snacks or maybe a whole meal. It depends on your time of day and your own habits. Again, take care of yourself. Be hydrated and eat what you need to eat. Number 4, get comfy, whether it's cooler or warmer, just something to cuddle perhaps. But be comfortable. That's also important. It's good physically and mentally. Number 5, have something to write with and write on. It can be paper, it can be anything you like. Memo, post-it notes, whatever you like. This advert not associated with post-it notes in any way, shape, or form. Disclaimer. Now, sit back, listen, and enjoy. Feel free to engage in chat. Do the puzzle over here or, down there somewhere. Play Jev Bingo. I do silly things like, I do silly things. Or you can spend pages and make me wear silly things like funny ears, like this one. Have a good stream.
Seriously tempted to revive that headband. I know somebody who's got some electrical tape rolls that I could use. And yeah, I've got a spot or something on the side of my nose, a bump. I took the skin off, I think. I don't know, whatever. Hopefully it's not too distracting. I shouldn't have said anything, but I noticed it. Anyway, so I want that headband again too. Yeah, I bet you do. I have a drink here today. Yes, thank you, Mother, for not sponsoring us. All the layers. The hairbands are to hold the sleeve on, but also cover a little bit of extra of the labelling. So the main label is on this side, and it's not quite as obvious but I have it facing me for drinking. I don't know why they put that, maybe to reinforce it to whoever's drinking it, but I just noticed before when I was about to go live that it also has it up here. And it's like, no, that's not meant to be there. I'm not putting the sleeve oh, that's right, the hairband will cover it, whatever. Because they're totally not sponsoring me. But the only one I've got any chance of anything like that with is one of the New Zealand brands, I guess. So I have a drink. It's a stimulant of sorts, I suppose. I was going to say caffeinated, but I don't even know if that one has caffeine or any of those other. It'll have other things if it doesn't have caffeine. I also have water. I have 3 bottles of water. Oh, thank you for saying that I'm a delicious red panda koriki. I do appreciate that. And here you go. Let's affirm koriki as well. Now let's try spelling it correctly. That is not the first time today I've spelt something incorrectly. Hang on, I have to get a name in here before I lose that thought. Right, there you go. That's a good thing to be too. Did I get my special ducks yet? Yes, I have. So what Goriki and I are talking about there is Placid Plastic Ducks, a Placid Plastic Ducks Simulator, PPDS, has a couple of extra ducks in it. And I'm trying to remember. Oh, that's right. It's because they've got another game. The people who've developed it have got another game coming out, which isn't released yet, although it's available in, I think there's a demo you can play, which I've had a go at, but I'm having to learn how to play cards with it. Game cards. Excuse me. I shouldn't have had that mouthful before. And that one's called Placid Plastic Deck. And the ducks are part of the story. It's pixel art. It's you've got characters doing things and interacting and talking and playing this card game. And it's quite cute, but it's not the style of thinking that I usually use when I'm playing games, because I usually do point and click adventures. I'm not a true gamer when it comes to that sort of thing. But they're also doing a collaboration with somebody else, and I can't remember who, but there's 2 new ducks in normal Placid Plastic ducks. And I did get both of them. I opened it up to Infinity Cool, which is the original game pool location, and apparently you need to be in that one for it to work. And one of them is a duck that has blue bobbed hair with some hair clips on it, and I think that one's meant to be representative of Zoe, the character in Placid Plastic Deck, the card game. And the other one is a duck dressed in a monkey suit, which is I think something to do with the collaboration they're doing with these other game devs, to do with another game. I have no idea, but I've got them both, and they are cute. And the monkey one blows bubbles, and they're quite effective. The way they've rendered the bubbles for it, it's really cool. And I'm guessing that Goriki has got both of his ones too. I am looking forward to, when we get a little bit closer to Halloween, actually getting Halloween ducks in the game. We already have some which are part of the special set, which I can make sure they're available, but they also reskin some of the original ducks from the original Infinity Cool set of ducks. So one's a zombie, another one's the duck that normally wanders around holding on to a knife has the knife in its head or something like that. There's a whole lot of other things that are sort of like Halloween costume styling for the different characters in there. Is it the rocker duck, the one that's got the Gene Simmons Kiss? It's white with a black beak, and it's got the Gene Simmons from Kiss eye makeup on. It looks a little bit more distressed and makes a different sound to normal. There's things like that. There's lots of lovely little things like that they put into their game, which is why so many people really love it, because it's an idle game. You just let the ducks drift around, but you can change which one whose point of view you're looking from, and you can also change to a couple of other locations, and then you can find out about all the extra information that's in the background that might be hinting at things in the game that you can do by putting information into it, or things like that, keeping an eye out for. So there's all sorts of stuff like that in it, which is one of the reasons, and it's cheap. It was discounted through the autumn sale, but even without it being discounted, it's actually a very cheap game, and most people can afford to get the game, the base game, and all the DLCs. Yeah. So yeah, I am looking forward to the Halloween skinning for it. One of the things I'm going to be doing for my Halloween streams, and I haven't actually pinned it down as to how many I'm going to do, whether it's a week or 2 weeks of them, just depends on what I feel up to. I'll probably start the whole of the week before Halloween, and then if I'm still feeling up to it, carry on during the week afterwards. Is this year I'm going to be playing games that have either Halloween themes or Halloween focused, or even just use a Halloween skin. Some of them I'll probably just have them up on screen for 10 minutes and show you the cool different look of it compared with what it normally is. Other ones we might do some bit more playing, but they will not be scary horror ones, okay? You should know that by now. I'm going to also see if I can get it so that my weird sounds and things like that redeems are back and working. I may or may not have a background associated with that
in the chat scene. I might have to find some other pictures that I can use for that, just to have a bit of variety so it doesn't look like last year. But I won't be reading books. I will be playing games. Some of them, like I say, I'll be revisiting some ones that actually have Halloween-themed skins for the season. But other than that, are not specifically a Halloween game. Other ones that are just sort of like have that slightly eerie vibe, or they're about vampires or witches, even if it's not Halloween focused, that sort of thing. Not my usual sort of game. So that's what we'll be doing. We may even have a... Sorry, I've got an itchy eye and I need to itch it, otherwise I won't be able to think. We may even visit Disney Dreamlight Valley because they will be doing something that is Halloween themed. I know that Parlia has just done an update. And that one, in Parlia itself, the game, because it's not a human world, although there are humans in it, it's the Parlians, I guess. They don't celebrate Halloween, they don't celebrate Christmas, but they have some sort of festive type thing going on, styling. So that we, the players, who are humans, who may actually enjoy those sort of things, still get to enjoy it, but they don't use those terms in the game. So the latest update, which happened really, really early this morning, I guess, should have the little stall where you can buy Halloween-style decorations. It'll have some floating candles. It'll have autumn leaves. Some of the stuff will be there, the stuff that they've had before. Other things will be new. They may even have some hidden quests that are available. That's another set of game devs that I enjoy some aspects of the way they just add little extras to it, where they'll just throw in a hidden quest. There's a lot of ones to do with finding chests around the place that I found without anyone even saying anything about it. I didn't know anything about them being there, but because when I first started playing the game, I was exploring the landscape. I was climbing all sorts of places that the devs knew that some people would, but a lot of game players don't go. I've watched them. They run along the paths, the footpaths, and they go up the path. I go, that's where I want to go. I'll go across the grass there and over those rocks and climb the cliffs because it's quicker. Or I will be at the top of the cliffs and I'll jump off the cliff and use the glider to go to wherever it is and then run. But in the game, you don't have to stay on the path. Why are these people staying on the path? I don't know. They're obviously not the ones who find those secret quests. Just because. Anyway, so big news is I got a bunch of gifts. Thank you very much, Goreki. And they're here. Does anyone want to see my new gifts? They're wonderful. I've got them right here. Oopsie, one of them's falling over. Some of them are bigger than others. So what are we going to start with? Let's start with this one. It's a felt memo board. In other places, this would be called a letter board because you stick letters on it. Do you remember in the old days, you'd go into a high-rise building that had a whole lot of offices in, and they would have a black felt board on the wall with letters pressed into it to say this business is on this floor and this business is on this floor and this one is on this floor, and it would have gold lettering and they would have a gold coloured frame around it, and often they'd have actually a glass door that would be locked to keep the sign from having people fiddling with the letters and rearranging it into all sorts of naughty things. I need to find a knife so I can open it. I've got a knife here somewhere. Where's the knife? There's the knife. I've actually got a smaller version of this knife too, but I don't know where it is. Oh, Goreki says he still sees them. There you go. Box cutter. Actually, this is not a traditional box cutter. A traditional box cutter is a Stanley knife, which has a blade, which sometimes some versions of the handle it retracts and some it doesn't. But it's not it doesn't have a snap-off blade so that you can get a new sharp bit. Anyway, so we're going to open this up. But I saw this one and decided this would be a really cool one to get. It was cheaper than normal because it was pink. And normally I'm not really into pink, but I don't think it's too bad a pink. But obviously they're having a hard time selling it. And my groceries, I forgot to, I'm showing you this now because otherwise I will forget. This is the little thank you that came on the side of my little, on my click and collect grocery order. Again, they've been doing it for the last month, basically. Glitter Bomb, 8 Ball says, are you kidding? Well, that could go either way. By the way, this is a little square of Whittaker's chocolate that has supreme coffee flavour in it, which is actually the coffee I think that we use. Anyway.
It's nicely done.
It is nicely done, yes. He's had one of these coffee squares and he was appreciative of it too. PJ here downstairs having his lunch. That's what you're hearing. So here we go.
Just clarifying for those who aren't sure who he is.
Yes. Clarifying for those who aren't sure who he is. There's lots of letters. I'm going to have to put this up in the background somewhere. Probably not today because I don't want it to fall over. Put that there. Hang on. Lots of letters, and there's the board. And I did actually figure that if I found it too pink, that I would spray paint it another colour or dye it or something like that. But yeah, I looked at how they're made before I got one. I looked at how they're made and I thought, oh, I can make myself one of those when I looked at what the prices normally are. And then I looked at how much work's involved and I thought, no, which is why this one went on my wish list, because this one was a really good price and I like it. It's also a good size because a lot of the not so expensive ones are about just that bit there, which is quite small. So let's put this down here. Thank you, Goriki, I do appreciate it. So it's got a set of larger letters and it's got a set of smaller letters. I hadn't actually realised that. I'll show you. So most of them are smaller letters, which are this size. And then if I turn this over, these ones are probably twice the height for how far apart the pins go in. And then it's got these ones, which are this big. See? They're quite different in sizes. Oh, they only have one pin along the bottom edge. That's different. I haven't seen that before. I've only ever seen ones where they actually have 2 pins, one at top and one at the bottom. And I think that's why they're sort of like, you have to get the right ones, otherwise they won't fit. This makes a lot more sense if you only have a set of pins that go into those grooves along one edge. I would just put this down and get on to the next thing, except I don't want to lose any letters. Anyone ever played a game where you have some, it's a little bit like jigsaw puzzles, where you're playing with something and then you have to go away and do something and you come back and you've lost some pieces and you never ever find them again and you end up giving up on whatever it was that you were playing with because it's not the same with those bits missing. Well, yeah, something like this. I am not going to just put it down and ignore the pieces. Right, I think that's going to sit back in the box. Right. I do say that word a lot, I think. Sorry. So that's the letterboard. Actually, I won't put it in the bag. I will just put it over here. Because there's currently no cat there. So if you do look at the cat, you're going to get the letterboard. So in line with that, we have something else. Do I like signage? I guess I do.
Cat's down here at the moment.
Light box with letters, as opposed to a letterboard. I've come across all sorts of names for all sorts of things like this when I first started looking for signage for streaming. Is it a light box? Is it a letterboard? Is it a A letterbox. No, I've got one of those. That Santa one. I've still got it. There you go. See, it's got grooves in it. This one takes a lot of batteries. 6 AA batteries. That's ridiculous. But you can also plug it in with a micro USB, not a USB-C, because it's probably the original. Summit first message. Summon coffee boy. Yes. So it's got letters here, which I am not going to break apart yet, and you slide them into these grooves here. So you can have it, or you plug it in using, I could use a battery pack, a backup battery, you know, those battery banks. And it takes a micro USB, and then it's got a switch on it. Yay! Yeah, so if you have a USB charger, you can plug it into the wall. But if you haven't got in the meantime, I can use it as a light reflector. That's just light off my one behind me reflecting. But yeah. Oh, and it's also look. It's also got a slot where you can put the letters after you've separated them, or you can put them in that little wee flat tray so you don't lose them. It's really easy to lose the letters for these. I'm going to have special little boxes for all the letters, especially for the felt board. Right, I'll put this one over there too. Actually, I'll put that there like that. So if people do want to just sit and gaze upon my lovely haul of wonderful gifts from Dorothy, they can. But wait, there's more. We have here, except it's not that colour. It's a much nicer colour. Yes, it was fast. I can talk to you about that later, but not now. So, oh, look, here's a base for the tree, like this. I think everything here is USB powered today. Maybe that's what my brain is missing. So this is how they come. And then what you do is you repose the bits. So they're just foam flowers that look like roses stuck on with hot melt glue. I'm seeing strings of it already. And they have in the middle of them, let's see if I can find a plug here that I can plug into something so you can see. So it's the turquoise colour, of course. 8-ball, are you USB powered? And 8-ball says, don't think so. That's way bigger. Yeah, I know. It's cool, eh? It was lighter than I expected, but it makes sense because the flowers are made out of that craft foam. I'm just going to see if I can plug it into something somewhere. I don't need that. I'll unplug that because I have a USB port on the side of my computer at the front. And let's turn some other lights off so you can see them. I saw them go on. You probably can't. If they're in my background and the background's quite darkish, you'd probably see them really easily. Now, hang on. Lights. No, go back. Sorry, I accidentally went to the wrong screen. So I'm going to go off and off. Oh, because of the colour of them. Now they've got little bright spots in the middle of them at the moment. I would have to adjust my green screen, but they definitely have lights in them. Little lights right down in amongst the foam. So that's the... Oh, it's just a push. Yay! I don't have to slide it. And there's the base for it. So that will go on there like that. Like that. And I'll stand it up. But I will straighten them all out so it looks like a lovely rose bush. Looks very Asian inspired, actually. I'll straighten that up a little bit, just so you can see what they are. And the foam itself will relax more as it's out of the box. So that's that one. Wait, there's yet more. Oh, honestly, you thought it was like half that size tops.
You calculated?
You and me both. I've got a can, unless you wanted to bring something else up. There's another one. This one doesn't have a colour sticker on it. Sorry, what?
I can bring your nippies up if you want it.
No. I don't really feel like nippies at the moment. This one, guess what colour this one is? It's purple. It's a lovely soft lavender. Now, let's straighten these up a little bit, not fully rearrange it, but just make it so they're a little bit more visible. I feel like this is a crafting session or Lego flowers. I haven't actually finished my Lego flowers. I need to. But I like the fact that they're reasonably posable. They're not sort of springing back. What? Oh, hang on. I have to move some stuff off the chair.
Oh, yeah.
We've got a visitor coming. There. Now they're on the floor. Hang on.
Hang on.
Hang on. I just have to get to it. Where is it?
No, he isn't a very light cat.
That one. Redeem. There he is. He's in his tunnel and he's being carried up in his tunnel. I'll just put the why is that showing through there? Oh, it might be because some of the colouring on his camera is whiting. Oh, my lights. Let's turn the lights back on.
Oh no, you did that.
There he is. Guess what colour this is? Well done for clipping it. Theme here, anyone? Let's see see if the lights show up on this one. When I eventually get a better setup, I will have it where I've got some decent lights for streaming. No, I'm not getting Elgato stream lights because they cost more than they're worth. Seriously. Oh, if anyone's into using a Stream Deck but can't afford it, there's another company that has just come out with a similar thing to an Elgato Stream Deck, and it's a company called Ulanzi, which is actually a Chinese company, but they do a lot of highly specialized things for cameras and stuff like that. See, lights. Even without the lights on, it's going to look really cool. So these are all down on the floor at the moment. But look, my colours. I was so excited when I saw them. The cat's looking at it. Okay, well, there's one more, but wait, there's more. I'm just checking where the overlay is. Yes, it is behind him. Oh, and we've got Theodorable's treat time. Theo? Oh, Theo, would you like a treat?
Sorry to make you do all the...
No, you get to do it.
No, the moving stuff off the chair.
Oh, that's all right. I wasn't expecting you to bring them up.
No.
There you go.
We've got 2 and 2 bits.
You can grab another one.
Ooh, Theo, lucky day.
Yes. We all get gifts. And last thing from my gift batch, I have an iridescent hourglass, except it's not an hour. I think it's 4.5 minutes, which is like a really weird length of time for it to be. I don't know how they decided. I think it's just Theo's covered in bad special effects. I know. I think a lot of it is actually just to do with the
tunnel
filter. No, I think it's to do with the green screen filter on his camera. If you wait a minute, I'll see if I can ever so slightly adjust it.
Green screen filter on his camera?
Otherwise, it's like this.
Okay, I forgot.
Which is a little bit loud. So if I put that back on and just there, he's a bit more normal, but you're going to get a little bit of bitsing in the background.
Here we go.
Blues.
Okay.
You're going to... What are you doing?
Trying to tip him out.
Here, be tipped out. Oh, that's not nice.
Well, that didn't go according to plan, did
No,
it?
it didn't. I'm now trying to
now
open
he's
this so
sitting
you
on
can
the floor
see it.
next to the carpet.
He's inspecting the gifts. Do we have a Theo seal of approval? He's
When
inspecting.
you've got time, can you hand him to me and I'll just pop it
Sure.
in.
It's trying to open a plastic
He
box.
is not a light cat. He's not. He's rather heavy.
He's fairly definitely Maine Coon.
But he's not overweight.
He's actually a small Maine Coon. Look at the
Shiny.
shine on it. You can see it best down here. That's not just reflection, it's got that beautiful luster finish on it. It's gorgeous, and it stands up on its end. You don't need to have a frame for it. It's really cool, and it makes my brain go zzz.
Lovely.
Unfortunately, I haven't got anywhere flat to put it on at the moment. There you go. That was a bit weird. I could have put him on the chair. So that was wonderful. All that lovely unboxing. Thank you so much, Dorothy. I really, really, really appreciate it. Thank you for all the gifts.
Have fun with the stream, everyone.
We shall indeed.
Theo's now settled back onto his seat.
Theo's settled back into his seat. That's
I'm just
awesome.
gonna drop this tunnel over
Oh,
the side.
no, he's gone.
So much for that then. I tried.
Yes, you did try. Thank you so much.
I thought he'd be more comfortable.
Yes. Yes. It's okay. No worries. Right. So, does anyone want to hear a story? Thank you so much for those, Dorothy. I really, really do appreciate it. They are wonderful, and they're a lot bigger than any of us expected, I think. I mean, even this. Look at the size of this hourglass. It's like... Oh, that's another one. Try finding these online and getting the sort of thing that you're looking for and typing in a name that Google will recognize. And if you want to complicate it, try finding a digital version of these. I've got one and I use it for the headbands, but there's one other one I found online where you can actually adjust how long it runs for. The one I use looks a lot better. But I was hoping to find some other ones that had variations on that sort of styling. Hourglass, sand glass, sand timer, egg timer, and they give you all those ones like a little wee clock with a knob that you turn, or a chicken where you turn the top half of it and the top half moves around. It goes click, 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 and then it rings, that sort of thing. So once upon a time, this sort of thing was often called an egg timer. But we're used to the really little ones that sometimes come in games. But that one is gorgeous, and it's big, and it's wonderful. Thank you. Oh, all the lovelies. Thank you so much, Goriki. I really do appreciate it. By the way, everybody, it's Goriki's birthday streams at the end of the week. For me, it will be Saturday, Sunday. For most of you, it'll be Friday, Saturday. Go and check out his schedule. Goriki, can you put your schedule on so that people can find it and see it in their own time schedule? Because I didn't copy it today, and I won't be able to find that from 2 days ago in my pastes. But yeah, awesome. Lots of fun. There's going to be story reading, maybe even some comics. That'll be public domain ones. Superheroes or sci-fi, I think. And there may also be some watching of things, public domain TV and movies. Lots of fun. Come along ready. Bring your snacks, your party food, your party drinks. Friday, Saturday, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern, internet approving. Yes, internet approving being that there are issues with internet around where he lives. Friday, mostly reading, Saturday, mostly movies. That sounds awesome. And I'm going to try and be there, but the Saturday one I may not be able to be there just because things on Sundays for me. And also I've got a friend who's got a book launch in the afternoon, which I need to get to. I missed her last one. I went to her first one. She's got a series of 3 thrillers set in the local area, and they've been doing really well. They're not family friendly. They are not public domain. I will not be reading them here, but they are really well written. They're quite intriguing. She's originally from Sweden. Yes, Sweden. And I don't know if you are a connoisseur of thrillers, but Scandinavia has some pretty gripping thrillers. It's just part of their DNA. Maybe it's what they get up to on the long, cold, dark winter's nights. They spin yarns, they tell stories. The word saga, it comes from Scandinavian background because they have sagas, which are long, epic stories about families and feuds and all sorts of stuff like this. It's actually a word that came from one of the Scandinavian languages. So all that sort of stuff. So yeah, get along to Goreki's stream. Should be good. Streams. There's 2 of them. And cheer him on. Keep your fingers crossed. Touch all the wood that you can. Pray, if you're a praying sort, that his internet and his technology will work for him. It should be fun. Should be good. And I'm just unlocking my book. I'm trying to remember if there's anything else I was going to tell you. I told you about my chocolate. Showed you all my wonderful gifts. I told you about my drink. I do have other snacks. The ants aren't into most of them, so that's good. I hate ants. They really bug me when they're inside my house. Don't like it. Anyway, and I've got a pile of gifts now sitting on the floor because the cat disappeared, so I'm just going to put them on the chair so people can look at them if they want to. Hi, Void. Great to have you here. Lovely to see you again. And yes, the comma in that sentence was in the wrong place completely. Putting these up on the chair, on the cat chair. There. So they can kind of be seen if anyone does want to look at them, but that's all right. You don't need to. They're lovely. Thank you. Let's carry on. We are going to be reading some more from Dorothy Dale at Glenwood School by Margaret Penrose, first published in 1908, and she's an American author. She's now deceased. Otherwise we wouldn't be reading her book here, would we? Because it wouldn't be public domain. Right, hang on. Chapter 17, The Strike of the Rebs. Oh dear, the rebels. No. This is this girl who for some reason has really taken offence at Dorothy. And we don't know why yet. Sorry, I've got an itchy nose. I was hoping that they would actually resolve it and she would be the daughter of that guy who she had made sure that the inheritance went to her instead of the guy who's been trying to hunt her down because he felt that it was his right because he was persuading the dad to give him money which he didn't have any right to, instead of using it to support his own wife and child. But I don't think she's going to be. Not when she's being this nasty. The Strike of the Rebs. Now, the Rebs were going to be, I think, the name of the other group at the school, which were not meant to be there because they have to get school approval to have another club. One miserable day, Dorothy found all her friends, at least those who had claimed to be her friends, suddenly lost to her. Those who were not openly rude enough to deliberately turn their backs upon the astonished girl made some pretense of avoiding conversation with her. It will be to do with the rumours of her being seen getting out of the Black Maria in town, as if she actually was a criminal instead of actually just being given a ride by the police because they were saving her from being stuck in the middle of the countryside in the middle of the night. It all came so unexpectedly and without any apparent explanation that Dorothy was stunned. And don't forget, she's here on her own. Tavia had to go home because her mum wasn't well. It all came so unexpectedly and without any apparent explanation that Dorothy was stunned. Even the effervescent Edna only gave her a measured smile and walked down the hall to the study room without breaking her silence. Oh dear. The day wore on like a dream of awful fancies that try to choke but withhold even such a mercy as the final stroke. What had she done? Where was Rosemary? And why would not someone come and accuse her outright? That she might at least know the charge against her, a charge serious enough to spread in one day throughout Glenwood School. Evening fell, but even then Rosemary did not come to Dorothy's room. On the following day there was to be a rehearsal for the play, and how could Lalia repeat her lines? How could Dorothy pretend to be the happy little pilgrim who starts alone on the uncertain path of life? Well, because she is at the moment. Mrs. Pangborn was ready in the recreation hall. Some of the others were there discussing their characters and other things. The hour for the rehearsal came, and with it appeared some 20 girls, among them, but not their leader, so it seemed, being Viola Green. They approached Mrs. Pangborn, and then Adele Thomas spoke. Mrs. Pangborn, she began with flushed cheeks, we have come to say that we cannot take part in the play unless another girl is selected for the character of Layla. Why? Demanded the astonished principal. What does this mean? And she too flushed at the very idea of her pupil's insurrection. Because, faltered the spokeswoman, we do not like her. She has pretended to be what she is not and never will be. This was a bold speech. Dorothy Dale paled to the lips. Hush this instant, ordered the surprised Mrs. Pangborn. Let no one dare make such an assertion. If anything is wrong, my office is the place to settle it. Leave the hall instantly. I shall send for you when I desire to make an investigation. She's probably not aware that there's been a problem. Mrs. Pangborn placed her hand tenderly on Dorothy's shoulder as she passed out. Do not worry, dear, she whispered. This is some nonsense those girls with the new club idea have originated. It will be all right. But Dorothy flew to her room, and alone she cried as if her heart would break. If only Tavia had not left her. If Rosemary would only come to her. Where was Rosemary? She had not even appeared at class that day. But after all, what did it matter? Perhaps she too. No, Dorothy could not believe that. Rosemary would never condemn her unheard. How long Dorothy lay there, sobbing out her grief on the little white bed, she did not know. Dusk came, and the supper hour, but she made no attempt to leave the room. A maid had been sent to her with some toast and tea, and a line from dear Miss Crane, but Dorothy was utterly unable to do more than murmur a word of thanks to be repeated to the thoughtful teacher. When it grew so dark that the window shadows no longer tried to cheer her with their antics, Dorothy was startled by a sudden tap at her door, and the next moment Rosemary had her in her warm, loving arms. And we have an illustration. Ooh, illustrations. Let's find it. This one. Next moment, Rosemary had her in her warm, loving arms. There you go. So she's just finally heard the news and been able to come. I don't know what the deal is. What's going on? I shall turn that back off again and wonder what it is that's being hammered in another part of the house that I can feel it through my feet. That's weird. Anyway, carry on. What is it? Demanded the older girl at once. Tell me about it. What have they said to you? Oh, Rosemary, sobbed Dorothy, bursting into fresh tears. Why did you leave me all alone? Why did I not leave you? I had to go into Rainsville early this morning and have just this very minute gotten back. Mrs. Pangborn knew I would be late and sent James with the cart to meet me. Oh, I did not know you were out of school. And the explanation afforded Dorothy at least one ray of relief. Didn't Nita tell you? I asked her to do so at study hour. Not a girl has spoken to me all day, declared the weeping one. Oh, Rosemary, what do you think it is all about? I cannot find out. They seem determined not to let me know. I thought you could tell me. I haven't the slightest idea. If only Ned or Dick would tell me, then I might have a chance. That's the two other girls. Remember their nicknames? I'll never sleep until I find out, declared Rosemary. The idea! And her brown eyes flashed indignantly. I never heard of such a thing, you poor little dear, and she held Dorothy to her in an unmistakable embrace. If Tavia were here... Yes, she would settle it soon enough, with her fists if necessary, and I do believe that such work deserves such treatment. But I will do all I can for you, and perhaps our vengeance will be just as sure, if not so swift. It seems strange that all the girls should take the same view of it, reflected Dorothy. I should think some of them would speak to me about it. No good to try guessing at such a thing, said Rosemary wisely. And now do eat up that toast. Who sent it? Miss Crane. The dear. I hold Camille Crane the guardian angel of Glenwood. But eat her toast. There, take this sip of tea, or shall I light the lamp under it to warm it up? Tea warmer. I like it cold, said Dorothy, whose lips were quite feverish. I will take the toast. I feel so much better since I have you back. But if I am to see Dick and Ned, I must be about it, spoke Rosemary, consulting her watch. I'll just have a mouthful. You can too. We are not having ones that are mother, time and school at the moment. So I'm having something else. But if I am to see Dick and Ned, I must be about it, spoke Rosemary, consulting her watch. Just go to sleep and don't worry a single bit. I'll tell you all about it tomorrow. And with a hearty kiss, the sweet girl was gone. As if events conspired to keep Dorothy worrying, it was announced the next morning that Mrs. Pangborn had been called to Boston. And this meant, of course, that the investigation would have to wait for her return. That's a long way to have to go. We're in upstate New York. To me, that's a long way. Neither was Rosemary successful in gaining the desired information. Molly had not heard all about it. Neither had Edna. They must be Ned and Dick. So they said, but they did admit they'd promised not to tell either Rose or Dorothy, for that would mean trouble for the tale-bearer. That's why nobody is saying anything, because somebody has threatened everybody. It's something about Dalton, said Edna, really anxious to tell Rose, but feeling she must keep her promise, as the matter had assumed such an importance. Molly declared that Amy Grant had told her it was about Dorothy and Tavia being in some awful scrape and that they had been arrested for it. Now Molly, for some reason, was not scared of being threatened. If she's prepared to tell Rose. This seemed so ridiculous that Rosemary did not for a moment credit it with being the story that caused the trouble, although it could have been the story that caused the trouble, just that it's not true. She would not insult Dorothy with a hint of that silly gossip, and if those girls were foolish enough, she decided to believe in any such nonsense. Why, let them go right on. They must learn their own lesson. So it happened that Dorothy did not get the hint, that which would have been enough to afford her the opportunity of making an explanation. But Edna did speak pleasantly to her after Rosemary's talk, and Molly actually apologised. Mrs. Pangborn had been away 2 days, then a week had passed since the promise of an investigation, and Mrs. Pangborn was not at school yet. The girls in Viola's club, they still regarded themselves as being in it, although the forbidden meetings were suspended, left Rosemary, Dorothy, Molly and Edna entirely to themselves. Dick and Ned were charged with telling the story to Rosemary, although they stoutly denied the allegation, but Adele Thomas suspected them. They had always been such friends of the Dalton girls. It seemed best to the Rebs to keep them out of further affairs of the kind. They should hear no more of the secrets against the despised Dorothy, all because one person was offended by something. Even the play was at a standstill. Nothing but lessons and sadness seemed Dorothy's share at Glenwood now. If only Mrs. Pangborn would come and give her a chance to speak for herself. She would write home immediately and ask to go back to her dear daddy, to thoughtful, brave little Joe, and to dear, darling baby Roger. Yes, and Aunt Libby would love her so. It would be so good to have all love again. And they were all at North Birchland with Aunt Winnie. Every letter brought good news of the happy home established there since Dorothy left for Glenwood. "I will ask to go home next week," sobbed Dorothy. "Whether Mrs. Pangborn comes back or not, I simply cannot stand this. I feel like I did when I stepped out of that awful police patrol." Chapter 18. Dorothy's Sacrifice. I don't know. Interesting. The day had been unusually tiresome, all the little spots of jollity, club meetings, evening fudge parties and the like having been abandoned, and Dorothy, with Rosemary, was trying to find comfort in watching a winter sunset. "Did you know Mrs. Pangborn had come back?" asked Rose, burying her chin in her palms and dropping into a reclining attitude. "I don't know how you recline when you've got your chin in your palms." "Maybe she's lying down like this?" "No," said Dorothy simply, still watching the floating clouds. "Yes, and I overheard a maid ask Viola Green to go to the office after tea." "Viola," echoed Dorothy, abstractedly. "Of course you know it is she who made all this fuss, and I'm right glad she's been called to give an explanation at last. It largely depends on how inclined the teacher is, the head teacher, the principal, is, to believe what Viola says. And Viola has a way of getting people to believe her." Well, we're 3/4 or 2/3 of the way through the book, so it's going to get resolved somehow. I have not been able to get the least hint of what it's all about," mused Dorothy. "I had a letter from Tavia today, and I'm afraid she cannot come back this term. My last lingering hope went out when I read that. Tavia would be sure to dig it out some way." Rosemary thought how foolish had been the talk she had dug out. Instead of realizing that there might be a grain of truth to it, which is how rumours really grow, when there's an element of truth to them, but the rumour is not the whole truth. But if she had let Dorothy know what she had heard, Dorothy would have been able to explain. She thought how foolish had been the talk she had dug out, and smiled when she imagined Tavia at work at such nonsense. But she would not pain Dorothy with the thought of that talk. Too silly and too unkind to bother her with, decided Rose, so that then, as well as on other occasions when the opportunity came to her to mention the arrest story, she let it pass. "Let's go see Dick," suggested Rose. "We'll find Ned there, and perhaps we may manage some fun. I'm positively getting musty." "You go," said Dorothy, just as Rose had expected. "I'll do my exercises. I'm pages behind." "Not without you," argued the other. I have lots I ought to do, but I'm going to cut it for this night. Come along," and she took Dorothy's arm. "I'm dying to hear Ned sing a coon song." One of the songs from the slaves in the labour villages on a plantation? I don't know. Not really words I use. But they found number 23 vacant. Edna was out, so was Molly. In fact, everybody seemed to be out, for knots of girls talked in every corner of the halls and always stopped speaking when Dorothy and Rose came up to them. "It's the investigation," whispered Rose. "They are waiting for Viola. Did you see such a crowd of magpies?" "I'm going in," said Dorothy nervously. "I can't bear the way they look at me." "All right," assented Rose. "I'll see you home since I dragged you out, and I'll promise to make known to you the words of the very first bulletin. Sorry to be so cruel, but I cannot find any sympathy in my heart for Viola Green." "Oh, indeed I can," spoke up the kind-hearted Dorothy. "She has so much to worry about her mother, and perhaps she inherits some peculiar trait. Bottle green, I suppose. Well, you can pity her if you like, but I will save mine until I know why." So Rosemary kissed Dorothy good night. She had done so regularly of late, and the two friends parted. For some time the hum of voices could be heard in the corridor outside Dorothy's room. Then the lights were turned out and everything seemed as usual. But in room 12, Viola Green was struggling with a weighty problem. What Mrs. Pangborn had said to her that evening in the office meant for Viola dismissal from school. Wow. Unless Dorothy was thinking of a plan. Surely she could make Dorothy agree to it. Viola was thinking of a plan. Surely she could make Dorothy agree to it. Dorothy was so easy to manage, so easy to influence. In room 19, Dorothy had not yet gone to her bed. She felt nervous and restless. Then, too, she had fully decided to leave Glenwood, and she had to think over what that meant for her father, and for Aunt Winnie. What explanation could she make? She had never been a coward. Why could she not face this thing and show everybody that she deserved no blame? Surely Major Dale's little captain should display better courage than to let a crowd of foolish schoolgirls drive her from Glenwood. Dorothy was thinking over the whole miserable affair when a timid knock came to her door. It was too late for any of the girls. Perhaps it was Mrs. Pangborn. Dorothy opened the door promptly. Viola Green stood before her, in a nightrobe, with her thick black hair falling about her like a pall. "Viola," whispered Dorothy, as kindly and quietly as if that girl had not stood between her and happiness. "Oh, let me come in," begged the black-eyed girl in a wretched voice. "Quick, someone may see me." "What is it?" asked Dorothy, making a chair ready and then turning up the light. "Oh, please don't turn that up," begged the visitor. "I can't stand it. Dorothy, I feel as if I should die." Dorothy had felt that way herself a moment ago, but now there was someone else to look after. "I think she's acting." Now she must not think of herself. How different it was for Viola. The ability to act is often a wonderful advantage. Viola made excellent use of her talent now. "Dorothy," she began, "I have come to ask a great favour of you, and I do not know how to begin." She buried her face in her hands and left the other to draw out the interview as she might choose to. It was gaining time to lose it in that way. "Is it about your mother?" asked the unsuspecting Dorothy. "Yes, it is," wailed Viola. "It really is. It's really about her, although I am in it too." "Is she worse?" "Dreadfully bad." And in this Viola did not deceive. "I had a letter today, but, oh, Dorothy, promise you will help me." "I certainly will if I can," declared Dorothy warmly, quite anxious about Viola's grief. "Oh, you can, and you are the only one who can, but how will I ask you?" And again Viola buried her white face in her equally white hands. "Tell me what it is," said Dorothy gently. "Oh, you know that foolish story about the Dalton police wagon?" "What about it?" asked Dorothy, perplexed. "Oh, that nonsense about you and Tavia riding in it." And Viola tried to pass off the nonsense without allowing Dorothy time to realize just what she had to say. "Well, what of that?" asked Dorothy again. Because Dorothy's thinking of the event, not of the rumours. Would she ever grasp it? Viola was almost impatient, but of course she dare not show such a sentiment. "Why, you know, I told it to a couple of girls just for fun one day, and they took it up in earnest, the silly things, and then to make it all this trouble over it." What trouble could that have possibly made? And Dorothy seemed as much in the dark as ever. Could it be that Dorothy had lived it all down and did not now consider it trouble? "No, she's just ignorant." Viola's heart gave a jump for joy at the thought. It might, after all, be easier than she expected. "I'm so glad they've not said anything to you about it. I've been dreadfully worried over it," went on Viola with a sigh. I am sorry. I hope you haven't been worrying on my account," said Dorothy. "Well, I was. You did seem so sad, but I should have known you had better sense." "I've been and am still very sad at Glenwood. In fact, I have almost made up my mind to leave." "When?" gasped Viola. Then, to hide the joy that Dorothy's words had brought her, she continued, "Do you have to go? Is someone ill?" "No, not at home, but I'm afraid I'll be ill if I do not stop this worrying." And Dorothy indeed looked very pale and miserable. Even Viola could not help noticing that. "I wouldn't blame you," spoke Viola. "It's dreadful to be homesick." "But I am not homesick," said Dorothy. "I would not allow that feeling to conquer me when I know what it meant for Father to let me come here. I must make good use of my time and not be foolish, but no matter how I try to be happy, it seems useless, and I know I am not strong enough to keep that up." Excuse me, itchy. Itchy eye. Oh. That's a bit better. Right, carrying on. Not strong enough to keep that up. So, and Dorothy sighed heavily, leaning her head against the blanket that covered the foot of her bed, "I feel I must go away." Tears rolled down her cheeks. She loved Glenwood and could not bear the thought of leaving the school which had been so pleasant before Tavia went and before that awful afternoon in the hall. "What I really wanted to ask you, Dorothy, is about that story." "What story?" "You are not listening to me, Dorothy, and I am just as miserable as I can be. Do you tell me you will do what I ask? Do tell me you will do what I... Never promise something if you don't know what the conditions are." "Sorry, I certainly was listening, and I am sorry you are miserable. What is it you want me to do?" Viola decided instantly upon a bold strike. She would make her demand and then follow it up so closely that Dorothy would not know just what she was giving her promise to. "Mrs. Pangborn sent for me tonight and gave me such a dreadful scolding. I just cried myself sick," said Viola, "and now when she sends for you and asks you about that ride, I want you to promise you will not deny it." "Certainly I shall not deny it. Why should I?" "Then if she wants to know what it is all about, just don't give her any more information. Say you did ride in the patrol wagon and that I had not told a lie. She actually said she would dismiss me if you said I had told what was not true. And oh, Dorothy, you know that would kill Mother, just as sure as a shot from a gun would kill her. My dismissal from Glenwood would do it." Yeah, she's very good at lying. She's a very good actress. "But why should you be dismissed if you only told the story in fun and it has done no harm?" "Of course, that's exactly the way to look at it, but I'm so afraid Mrs. Pangborn will take another view of it. Promise me, Dorothy. Oh, please promise me." And Viola actually knelt before the girl on the bedside. "When Mrs. Pangborn asks for an explanation, just say I told the truth, that you did ride in the police wagon, and then if she insists on hearing all the story, make some excuse, but do not tell it. Oh, if you knew how worried I am, and how dreadful it would be if she took it into her head to dismiss me." As Viola expected, she did bewilder Dorothy. Why should Viola weep and carry on so? But of course her mother was very delicate, and perhaps it might get mixed up so that Viola would be blamed. As if anything could be more mixed than that story was at present. Dorothy arranging to leave school because she could not find out why her companions had taken a sudden dislike to her, and Viola there telling her why, and yet keeping the real truth as far from her as it had ever been hidden, that she had instigated very deliberately. "But why should I not tell Mrs. Pangborn about the ride if she asks me?" insisted Dorothy, trying to see what was hidden from her. "Because don't you see, those girls may have made foolish remarks and they will be blamed on me, just because I was silly enough to believe they could see through a joke. And if you do not tell the story, there can be no further complications. It may be a little hard, but oh, Dorothy, do promise me." And again Viola grasped both Dorothy's cold hands in hers. "Laying it on a little thick now." "I certainly will not do anything that would bring trouble on you," reflected Dorothy aloud, "especially if that might worry your poor sick mother." "Oh, you darling, I knew you would promise. Now, no matter what Mrs. Pangborn says, promise you will do no more than admit you took the ride. Be sure not to say why you took it." It's getting a little fishy now." Dorothy was not suspicious by nature, else she would have seen through the thin veil that hung between Viola and that word promise. She was using it too frequently for good taste. But she wanted and insisted on getting a real, absolute promise, and it's written with a capital P. "But it might be rude for me to refuse to tell why we were in the wagon and at the same time to say we were in it." "Rude?" echoed Viola. "What small amount that would be compared to my dismissal from the school." Dorothy tried to think. Just as Viola had planned, she was not able to reason it all out clearly. It was too complicated. The night was getting old. It was 10 o'clock and every Glenwood girl was expected to be sleeping honestly. But these two were still far from reaching a satisfactory settlement of their difficulty. "One thing is certain, Viola," said Dorothy firmly. "I cannot and will not do anything that would seem disrespectful to Mrs. Pangborn. Not only is she a grand, sweet woman, a kind, just teacher, but she was my mother's friend and is still my father's friend. So that would be impossible for me to do or say anything rude to her." This was a declaration of principles at last, and Viola for the moment seemed beaten. But girls of her type have more than one loophole in such an emergency. "I had no idea of asking you to do anything unladylike," she said with a show of indignation. "It was you who made use of that word." As soon as they start accusing you of twisting the truth, it's usually because they are. You don't need to ask me how I know. I've had enough experience. "I merely asked that you would, if possible, not make known to Mrs. Pangborn the details of the story. Of course, I was foolish to think that you would care about their effect upon me or my dying mother." Viola rose to leave. Tears were in her eyes, and she did look forlorn. "I will do all I can to save you," Dorothy assured her, "and if I can avoid the story without being impertinent, I promise to do so." "Good." "Oh, bless you, Dorothy Dale," exclaimed the now truly miserable girl. "I am sure then that it will be all right. When you make a promise, you know how to keep it." And before Dorothy could say another word, her visitor was gone. Oh dear. I'm going to have a drink of water anyway. Which means you are as well. When I was trying to make room over here, I decided I better tidy up some things, which is a good thing. And I discovered past water bottles. Remember this one? And this one? These two go very well with this style of bottle, but the problem is you've got to unscrew the cap. And they're noisy and they take ages, which is why I don't use them. This is my original water bottle. This is the one I used to wave at people when I was talking about drinking water. But I stopped using it because, once again, you have to unscrew the cap, but also it's tall and thin and it gets knocked over really, really easily. It's a lovely one if you're doing something. It fits well in the palm of your hand, in your grip. It's lovely if you're doing something where you're not doing lots of stuff at the same time, where you can hold on to it and then just put the lid back on, but not when I'm streaming. And then also I've got this one here. And I can't remember why I stopped using this one. Probably because I got this one, which became too noisy, which is why I've got those two over there, which were on special. So yeah, I'm actually wondering about seeing if I can find some other ones of these, but with good colours, because they would be really good, a good size to use as water bottles for redeems. Water bottles for redeems, wouldn't they? And my favourite, it's a straw top bottle, which means I don't have to tip it up and pour it down myself, because I've nearly done that a number of times with my screw top bottles. What sort of water bottle do you use? Do you use a water bottle, or do you use a glass, or something else entirely? What do you use? Anyway, let's carry on. Chapter 9, The Tangled Web. What's the quote from? "Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive." It feels like it's from something in Shakespeare, but I can't remember. It just sounds so familiar. Anyway, Chapter 9, The Tangled Web. What happened that night seemed like a dream to Dorothy. Accustomed to think of others and to forget herself, she pondered long and earnestly over the grief that Viola had shown. Surely there was some strange influence between mother and daughter. Dorothy remembered the looks akin to adoration that Mrs. Green continually gave her daughter that day in the train. Viola had certainly done an imprudent thing in telling the story. Dorothy had no idea it was more than imprudent, that it was very deliberate, and it was embroidered. Neither did she know how seriously that act had affected herself. Even now, as she tried to grasp the entire situation, it never occurred to her that this was the story that stood between her and the friendship of the Glenwood girls. For the time, that unpleasant affair was almost forgotten. This new problem was enough to wrestle with, but forgotten by Dorothy. Early the next morning, Mrs. Pangborn sent for Dorothy. The president's appearance immediately struck the girl as different. She was in mourning. "Oh dear. I hope you have not lost a dear friend," said Dorothy impulsively before Mrs. Pangborn had addressed her. "Yes, Dorothy," she replied. "I have lost my father." "Oh, no, that's hard." There was no show of emotion, but the girl saw that no grief could be keener. "I am so sorry," said Dorothy. "Yes, my dear, I am sure you are, and your father knew him well. They were very old friends." "I have heard him speak of Mr. Stevens." "Yes, I suppose you have. Well, his troubles are over, I hope. But, Dorothy, I sent to ask you about that story some of the young ladies have been circulating about you. Of course, it is all nonsense." "What story have you reference to, Mrs. Pangborn?" Smart. "You must have heard it." "Why does everybody assume she has heard it, when they went to great pains to make sure she didn't hear it, so that she couldn't repudiate it? But also the teacher should be a little bit more wise as to the ways of kids. That you and Octavia were seen getting out of a police patrol wagon in Dalton. It is absurd, of course. But we did ride in the patrol wagon." She said ride. "Mrs. Pangborn," answered Dorothy, trying hard to keep Viola's tearful face before her mind, to guide her in her statements. "How foolish, child! It might have been a joke. Tell me about it." "If you would excuse me, Mrs. Pangborn, and not think me rude, I would rather not," said Dorothy, her cheeks aflame. "Not tell me?" And the lady raised her eyebrows. "Why, Dorothy, is there any good reason why you do not wish to tell me?" "Yes, I have made a promise. It may not be of much account, but if you will excuse me, it would relieve me greatly not to go over it." Mrs. Pangborn did not answer at once. For a girl to admit that she had ridden in a police van, and for that girl to be Dorothy Dale, it seemed incredible. We have no idea of the shame that would imply back then. Seriously, we have no idea how bad it was taken. "Dorothy," she began gravely, "whatever may be back of this, behind this, I would have said, I am sure you have not been at fault, seriously at least, and since you prefer not to make me your confidant, I cannot force you to do so. I am sorry. I had expected something different. The young ladies will scarcely make apologies to you under the circumstances." She was hoping for an explanation so that she could phrase it as appropriate to the other girls, so that the other girls could apologize for having shunned Dorothy. She made a motion as if to dismiss Dorothy. Plainly, the head of Glenwood School could not be expected to plead with a pupil, certainly not today when her new and poignant grief could not be hidden. "I shall say to the young ladies," said the teacher finally, "that they are to show you all the respect that they had shown you heretofore. That you have done nothing to be ashamed of, I am sure of this. Although you made the matter so mysterious, I would like to have compelled the girl who spread this report to make amends, but I cannot do that. You do not deny her story." At that moment, Dorothy saw, or at least guessed, what it all meant. That had been the story of her trouble. It was that which had made the girls turn their backs on her, that which had almost broken her heart, and now she had put it out of her power to contradict their charges. Mrs. Pangborn had said good morning. Dorothy was alone in the corridor. She had left the office and could not now turn back. Oh, why had she been so easily deceived? She's figured out. Why had Viola made her give that promise? Surely it must have been more than that. The story to cause all the girls to shun her? And perhaps Mrs. Pangborn believed it all. No, she had refused to believe it. But what should Dorothy do now? So that's good. Mrs. Pangborn doesn't believe the story, but she can't counter it with the actual story because she doesn't have it. Oh, what a wretched girl she was. How much it had cost her to lose Tavia. Tavia would have righted this long ago, but now she stood alone. She could not even speak of leaving the school without strengthening the cruel suspicion, whatever it might be. What could she do? To whom could she turn? Heartsick and all but ill, Dorothy turned into her lonely little room. She would not attempt to go to classes that morning. Let me guess. She's going to feel so bad and be so under the weather and not engaging socially and not eating properly and all that sort of stuff. She's actually going to get sick and she's going to get sent home. We've had that happen in kids' stories before. As a resolution for a current situation, and then it gets resolved a bit later on. Chapter 20, Suspicions. What did she say? Eagerly asked a knot of girls as Viola Green made her appearance that morning after her interview with the head of the Glenwood School. Sniffed Viola. What could she say? Did she send for Dorothy? Went on the curious ones. I have just seen her step out of the office this minute, and she couldn't see me. Her eyes wouldn't let her. Then she didn't deny it, spoke Amy Brooke. I could scarcely make myself believe that of her. Why would you have to make yourself believe it? If someone's behaviour has proven them to be a certain sort of person, and you know it, unfortunately, it's a very poor use of the colour green in this story. I'm sorry, Goriki, if it's wrecking the green for you. Yeah. Feeling rather green about the gills and then being sick. That may actually be Dorothy's way out, where she can get to go home. I'm guessing that that's kind of where you're going with all that. Anyway, we'll carry on. I could scarcely make myself believe that of her. Ask her about it then, suggested Viola, to whom the term brazen would seem at that moment to be most applicable. Oh, excuse me, returned Amy. I never wound where I can avoid it. The most polite way always turns out the most satisfactory. And do you suppose she's going to leave school? Asked Nita Brandt, timidly, as if afraid of her own voice in that matter. She told me so last night, said Viola meekly. I don't blame her. No, said a girl with deep blue eyes and a baby chin. I do not see how any girl could stand such cuts, and Dorothy seemed such a sweet girl. Better go and hug her now, sneered Viola. I fancy you'll find her rolled up in bed with her red nose, dying for air. It is the strangest thing, demurred Amy. So they're believing the words of someone rather than the behaviour that they've already previously observed about that person. Or the words about someone instead of the behaviours that they've already seen for themselves. For the two girls. It is the strangest thing, demurred Amy. Not at all, insisted Viola. All sweet girls have two sides to their characters, but I am sick of the whole thing. Let's drop it. And take up Dorothy again? Eagerly asked Nita. Oh, just as you like about that, if you want to associate with girls who ride in police wagons. Well, I do want to, declared Nita suddenly, and I don't believe one word against Dorothy Dale. It must be some mistake. I will ask her about it myself. If you wish to spare her, you will do nothing of the kind, said Viola. I tell you it is absolutely true that she has just this minute admitted it to Mrs. Pangborn. Don't you think if it were a mistake I would have to correct it, when the thing has now been thoroughly investigated? That's not investigated. Mrs. Pangborn hasn't been to the police in Dalton to find out what happened, has she? It was plain that many of the girls were apt to take Nita's view. They had given the thing a chance to develop, and they were satisfied now that a mistake had been made somewhere. Of course, the clever tunes made by Viola kept the ball rolling. There's the bell, and that subtitles, Baggins. I don't even know which word that was meant to be. There's the bell, announced Amy, reluctantly leaving the discussion unfinished. This was the signal for laying aside all topics other than those relative to the curriculum of Glenwood, and as the girls filed into the chapel for prayers, more than one missed Dorothy, her first morning to absent herself from the exercise. Miss Higley was in charge, Mrs. Pangborn also being out of her accustomed place. Directly after the short devotions, there was whispering. Now, it was very, very common back then for private boarding schools to actually have chapel, Bible studies, and things like that. So, that's just the way it was. Directly after the short devotions, there was whispering. "Young ladies," called the teacher in a voice unusually severe, "you must attend strictly to your work. There has been enough lax discipline in Glenwood recently. I will have no more of it." Sniffed Viola aside. Since when did she buy the school? Miss Higley's eyes were fastened upon her. Miss Higley was in charge. Oops, not a K word. No, but we're going to have some water anyway, aren't we? It's about time. I was expecting one to come up and I hadn't erased it. Yeah. Not a problem. Not a problem. Oh, yeah, the subtitles just haven't a clue. And by the way, it's now using New Zealand English on me, and look how bad it is. Although Miss Higley is probably not something... Oh, it got it right! That it would normally do. Miss Higley's eyes were fastened upon her, but Viola's recent experiences had the effect of making her reckless. She felt quite immune to punishment now. Although why reckless would be capitalised, I have no clue. "Attend to your work, Miss Green," called Miss Higley. "Attend to your own," answered Viola under her breath, but the teacher saw that she had spoken and knew that the remark was not a polite one. "What did you say?" asked the teacher. "Nothing," retorted Viola, still using a rude tone. "You certainly answered me, and I insist upon knowing what you said." Viola was silent now, but her eyes spoke volumes. "Will you please repeat that remark?" insisted Miss Higley. "No," said Viola sharply, "I will not." Miss Higley's ruddy face flashed a deep red. Viola's going to get herself expelled. Nothing to do with Dorothy. To have a pupil openly defy a teacher is beyond the forgiveness of many women less aggressive than Miss Higley. "You had better leave the room," she said. "Take your books with you." "I won't require them," snapped Viola, intending to give out the impression that she would leave school if she were to be treated in that manner by Miss Higley. She's so used to basically withdrawing her approval and getting what she wants by holding back approval that she's still trying it on. Viola has like 6 different names in subtitles. Viola! I'm not surprised. Oh my goodness, they're ridiculous. "I won't require them," snapped Viola, intending to give out the impression that she would leave school if she were to be treated in that manner by Miss Higley. "Get at your work, young ladies," finished the teacher, fastening her eyes on her own books, and thus avoiding anything further with Viola. To reach her room, Viola was obliged to pass Dorothy's. Just as she came up to number 19, Dorothy opened the door. Her eyes were red from weeping, and she looked very unhappy indeed. "Oh, do come in, Viola," she said, surprised to see the girl before her. "I was going to you directly after class. I did not know you were out." "I cannot come now," answered Viola. "I must go to my room." "Is there anything the matter?" asked Dorothy, kindly. "Yes," replied Viola, using her regular tactics, that of forcing Dorothy to make her own conclusions. Is your mother worse? If you're dealing with someone who's manipulative, don't give them the fuel for the conversation. Don't fill in the gaps. They use silence to get you to say something. Don't do it. Is your mother worse? Oh, my head aches, so you must excuse me, Dorothy. And at this, Viola burst into tears, another ruse that always worked well with the sympathetic Dorothy. Yeah, she's able to turn the tears on whenever she wants. The fact that Dorothy had spent a very miserable hour that morning after her talk with the President, and that she had finally decided to put the whole thing to Viola to ask her for a straightforward explanation and to oblige her to give it, but now Viola was in trouble. Dorothy had no idea that the trouble was a matter of temper, and of course her mother must be worse, thought Dorothy. How glad she was, after all, that she did make the sacrifice. It was much easier for her to stand it than to crush Viola with any more grief, in Dorothy's mind. Crush her indeed, it takes more than the mere words of a just schoolteacher, and more than the pale face of a persecuted girl to crush such a character as that which Viola Green was lately cultivating. Viola, 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 Cola. What a selection! Oh my goodness. And as Viola turned into her room, she determined never to apologise to Miss Higley. She would leave Glenwood first. Meanwhile, what different sentiments were struggling in Dorothy's heart? She had bathed her face, would go into the classroom. She might be in time for some work, and now there was no use in wasting time over the trouble. She would never mention it to Viola. That poor girl had enough to worry her. Neither would she try to right it in any way. After all, Mrs. Pangborn believed in her, and so did Edna and Molly, and a letter from home that morning told of the recovery of Tavia's mother. Perhaps Tavia would be back at school soon. Might be hard to meet the scornful looks of the other girls, but it could not possibly be as hard as what Viola had to bear. Oh yeah, the bit about subtitles. They're weird. We should have some weird bits in the description about what's happening with subtitles too, I think. So thought our dear little captain, she who was ever ready to take upon her young and frail shoulders the burden of others. But such virtue plainly has its own reward. Dorothy Dale entered the classroom at 11 o'clock that morning, with peace in her heart. Viola Green was out of the schoolroom and was fighting the greatest enemies of her life, pride mingled with jealousy. It had been that from the very first moment she had set her eyes on Dorothy Dale, whose beautiful face was then framed in the ominous black lining of the police patrol. It had been jealousy ever since. Dorothy had made friends with the best girls in Glenwood. She had been taken up by the teachers. She had been given the best part in the play, but Viola could not stand that, and now that the play had been abandoned on account of the death of Mrs. Pangborn's father — that said Panghorn, but I think it's Pangborn, has been every other time — and that Dorothy had been disgraced, what more did Viola crave? Was not her vengeance complete? But the girls were beginning to doubt the story, and those who did not actually disbelieve it were tiring of its phases. The promised excitement did not develop. All the plans of the Rebs were dead, and to be a member of that party did not mean happiness. It meant actual danger of discipline. Viola was too shrewd not to notice all this, and to realise that her clientele were falling off alarmingly. Would she really leave Glenwood? The wrong done, Dorothy, seemed to be righting itself in spite of all her devices, and that girl, disgraced though she stood in the eyes of many, seemed happier at that moment than Viola herself. Viola has never learnt to be content. I wish I'd gone home when I had Father's last letter, reflected the girl, looking in her mirror at the traces of grief that insisted on setting their stamp upon her olive face. But now, of course, that old cat Higley will make a fuss. Oh, I wish I'd never seen these cracked walls. I wish I'd gone to a fashionable school. She stopped suddenly. Why not get away now to that swell school near Boston? She could surely set aside her mother's foolish sentiment about Glenwood just because she had met Mrs. Pangborn abroad and become interested in this particular school for girls. So her mother, who has not a lot that she's living for except her daughter, who's very frail, is the one who chose the school for her. And now the daughter is going like, well, I don't care. I want to go somewhere else. Thank you, mother dearest. Viola had enough of it. She would leave, go home, and then perhaps she might get to the Beaumont Academy. It depends on if the schools talk to each other. Chapter 11, Sunshine Again. I'm just going to check to see how many chapters we've got in this book. Does it actually tell me? Oh, I hit the wrong button. I hit the library button. I was meaning to hit the table of contents button. They're right next to each other and they're very small. Where are we up to? Sunshine Again, chapter 21. We've still got a few. I think that's where it finishes. I think we've got 1, 2, 3 more chapters to go, because after that is talking about different book series by this publisher, which is Stratemeyer Syndicate. So there's the Ruby and Ruthie series, and it lists what they are. And then there's the Dorothy Dale series, the Ruth Fielding series, the Curly Top series, the Patsy Carroll series, the Jane Allen College series, the Motor Girls series, and the Khaki Girls series. Just to let girls know that there are plenty of books done by Stratemeyer Syndicate that they can read. Let's see how we do. 2:33. I don't think we're going to finish, but we'll see. Sunshine Again. Let's see how far it's got. 2:13 to 2:51. 13 to 51. That's 40 pages. That's 40 minutes. Let's try and just read, and maybe we can finish it today. Let's carry on. Come on. Yes. Chapter 21, Sunshine Again. A sense of suppressed excitement greeted Dorothy as she entered the classroom. Edna and Molly managed to greet her personally with a pleasant little nod, and even Miss Higley raised her eyes to say good morning. Certainly Dorothy felt heroic, and she had a good reason. Having suffered so long from a mysterious insult, she now had fortified herself against its stigma. At the same time, she was conscious of an awful weight hanging over her head, like the gloom of those who suffer without hope. She just looks like a sweet nun, whispered Ned to Amy. The cat's going past, not coming in. Doesn't she? Agreed Amy. I wish we could make her smile. But Dorothy buried herself in her studies with a determination born of perfect self-control. The morning wore into midday, then the recreation hour brought relaxation from all mental effort. A number of the girls who had been at first conspicuous figures in the Rebs made a particular effort to speak to Dorothy. She met their advances pleasantly, but with some hesitancy. They might only mean to make an opportunity for further trouble, Dorothy thought. Oh, well, it sounds like she's wising up slightly. That's not a bad thing. I like the other things too. I just got distracted by it because it's right next to my hand. And I'm going to have to find a way to set everything up behind me. Where did I get to? Might only mean to take an opportunity for further trouble, Dorothy thought. See here, called Edna, running along the walk after Dorothy. Have you taken the black veil? Not that such a vocation is to be made light of, seeing a frown come over Dorothy's face, but you know we cannot spare you just yet. You may be the dear little nun of Glenwood, but you'll have to keep up with the Glens and the Nicks. We are planning a reunion, you know. Oh, she's thought she might be actually becoming a nun in her behaviour. Yes, and we're going to give a play on our own account, said Molly, coming up at that moment. Mrs. Pangbourne has granted permission and we're about to select the operetta. It will be a musical affair this time. That ought to be lovely, responded Dorothy. There are so many fine players among the girls. Yes, and you can sing, declared Molly. We're counting on you for our prima donna. Oh, and we might have Viola accompany her on the violin. Wouldn't that be divine? Enthused a girl from Portland. A hush followed this suggestion. It was the awkward kind that actually sounds louder than a yell of surprise. What is it? Asked Rosemary, joining the group and giving Dorothy a hug. On the half shell, which in the parlance of schoolgirls means a spontaneous fling of the arms around the one on the defensive. Cologne will be sure to suggest something from English lit, predicted Molly. She, being a star in that line herself, thinks the stuff equally pie for all of us. We might try French. I said, try, Ned Ebony. You need not strangle yourself with that gasp. Come near it, admitted the one with her mouth open. Fancy us doing French. If they do something and they enjoy it, they may actually get more fluent. Then suppose we go back to the woods, try Red Riding Hood. Fine and dandy, exclaimed Nita Brandt. I'll be the wolf, because he was the only party who got it on the eating, remarked Edna. Let me be the squire, and don't all speak at once for the grandmother's fate. Think it over, girls, think it over, advised Nita. Back to the woods might not suit some of our rural friends. For my part, I prefer something tragic. Beat Red Riding Hood for tragedy, then, challenged one of the group. Of all the atrocities and desperate deals, to say nothing of the grandmother's nightcap going in the mix-up. And so they laughed it all off and marvelled that the mere mention of the old story should awaken such comment. Dorothy seemed to enjoy the innocent sallies. It was pleasant to be with the jolly crowd again, and to feel something akin to the old happiness. What happened to Fiddle? Asked Amy Brooke. I thought she would come back to class when her pout wore off. Pout? Repeated Dorothy. I met her in the hall and she seemed to be in great distress. Shouldn't worry, remarked Nita. Anyone who crosses swords with Miss Higley's bound to come to grief sooner or later. If I'd been Fiddle, I should have apologised at once. Easiest way out of it with Higley. Dorothy was confused. She had no idea of the scene that had taken place in the schoolroom that morning between Miss Higley and Viola, but as it was impossible for her to keep up with the run of school events lately, she ventured no more questions. When's Chrissy coming back? Asked Edna. I'm almost dead without her. Haven't had a single scrap since she went, and I've got the greatest lot corked up ready to explode from spontaneous combustion. I hope she'll be back before the end of this term, answered Dorothy. Tavia. Chrissy, Tavia. I heard today that her mother is entirely recovered. Good for the mother. Also, more power to her. I think I'll crawl up the skylight and do perfectly reckless stunts on the roof when Chrissy returns, just to celebrate. And suiting her words with the jubilant mood, the girl waltzed away down the path, making odd jabs at the inoffensive air that was doing its best to make life bright and pleasant for the girls at Glenwood. And that's the end of the chapter, but we're going on to the next. Chapter 22, Miss Crane and Viola. Viola Green was thoroughly upset. She had quarrelled with Miss Higley. She had more than quarrelled with Dorothy. Mrs. Pangbourne had told her plainly that if her story concerning Dorothy was found to be untrue, she would have to leave Glenwood, for that story had touched on the fair name of a pupil of the school, to say nothing more. Having defamed the honoured name of Dale made the matter of still greater importance. What should she do? To leave Glenwood seemed to be the only answer to that oft-repeated question, but to get into Beaumont required a clean record from the former academy, and would Mrs. Pangbourne furnish such a record under the circumstances? Oh yeah, school. Let's find school. That's mother, that's time, that means this one's school. Making sure that we've got plenty. And I'm going to move those bottles over because I have a feeling that school is going to be more popular for a little while. I'm also moving my hourglass a little bit further away from the edge. Thank you for that. Right, next. It was evening and the other girls were probably enjoying themselves, visiting about and settling wherever there was the best prospect of fudge, the only convection students were allowed to make in their rooms. But Viola would not go out. She was in no humour for visiting. While reclining on her small white bed, thinking the situation over until her head ached from the very monotony, a note was slipped under her door. She saw it instantly, but did not at once attempt to pick it up. The sender might be waiting outside and notice her readiness to become acquainted with the contents. Hearing the light step make its way down the hall, Viola took and opened the note. She sniffed. From Adele Thomas. Then she glanced over the note. It read, "My dear Viola, we're all so worried about you. Do please come out of your room or let some of us in. We wish very much to talk to you, but if you persist in keeping us at bay, won't you please make up your mind to apologise at once to Miss Higley? There are so many counts against us this month that the latest is positively dangerous in its present form. Do, Viola dear, answer and tell us you feel better and that you will comply with the request of the committee. Lovingly yours, Lowly." "Apologise?" echoed the girl, "as if my mother's daughter could ever stoop to that weak American method of crawling out of things." And her dark eyes flashed while her olive face became as intense as if the girl were a desperate woman. All over nothing. "Don't they know that the blood of the DeCarlos flows in my veins?" she asked herself. "No, they don't know. Why would they know? You haven't told them anything about yourself." She's so proud. Mother. We are drinking to Mother. And we're going to go one further than that. We are drinking to Mother. We are drinking Mother. Because that's the brand. Sorry. Itchy nose. "Don't they know that the blood of the DeCarlos flows in my veins?" she asked herself. "No, that's so they do not know it, nor shall they. Let them think me Italian, French, or whatever they choose, but let them not trifle with Spain. Ah, Spain, and how I have longed to see that beautiful country with Mother. Darling Mother!" This sort of affection never failed to soften the temper of the wily Viola. True, she had seen fit always to hide her mother's nationality from the schoolgirls. Often they had questioned her about her foreign face and manners, but like many who do not admire the frankness of Americans, it had pleased her to remain simply foreign. A supercilious smile crept over Viola's face. She held Adele's note in her hand and read it again. "Worried about me," she repeated, "as if they care for anything but excitement and nonsense, and they are aching for me to give the next spasm of excitement. Well, they may get that sooner than they expect." A step stopped at the door, then a light tap sounded on the panel. Casting aside the note, Viola opened the portal and was confronted by Miss Crane. Without waiting for an invitation, the pleasant little woman stepped inside. "Good evening, Viola," she began. "Mrs. Pangborn sent me to have a talk with you." "Yes," replied Viola in her most non-committal tone. "She has been much worried of late. So many things have been going on that did not add to her peace of mind." "That's a pity," said Viola, and this time her tone admitted of any number of interpretations. But Miss Crane expected all of this and was fully prepared for it. Sounds like even though Miss Crane sounds sweet, she's pretty wise. I hope so. "Especially that matter about Dorothy Dale," went on the teacher. "She is determined that the whole thing should be cleared up at once." "It ought to be," said Viola coolly, without appearing to take the least interest in the conversation. "In the first place," argued Miss Crane, "Mrs. Pangborn wished me to say to you that a full explanation on your part would, in the end, save you much trouble." "State's evidence?" almost sneered Viola. "Not at all," contradicted her visitor. "Simply a matter of common justice." "I believe that's what they call it," persisted the girl, tossing her head about to show a weariness of the whole miserable thing. You insist that you saw Dorothy Dale and Octavia Travers alight from a police patrol wagon? Asked Miss Crane severely. I do, answered Viola as solemnly as if taking an oath, and that you were told they had been arrested for some theft, garden stuff, I believe. Who was she told by? I heard Nat White, Dorothy Dale's own cousin, say so, again declared Viola. Yes, and Nat is a known tease. But I don't know if Viola knows it. And you had reason to believe he was in earnest? Every reason to believe and know so. Miss Crane stopped. She had expected Viola to break down on this cross-examination, but evidently her story was not to be shaken. Is that all? Asked the girl with a show of hauteur. No, said Miss Crane. I would like you to tell me the whole story. And if I refuse, you surely would not risk dismissal? No risk at all, my dear Miss Crane. I caught it, and all the Spanish fire of Viola's nature flashed and flamed with her words. Viola, do you know what you're saying? Perfectly. Have you finished with the 3rd degree? Refrain from slang, please. I never countenance such expressions. Viola only smiled. Evidently Miss Crane had reached the end of her rope. And you will make no explanation of why you told such a story to the girls of Glenwood? And the calm voice of the teacher rang out clearly now. No other reason to give for depriving one of the sweetest and best of these girls of her happy place among her companions? And that same girl refuses to tell her own story because of a promise. She must bear all the shame, all the suspicion, all the wrong silently, when everybody knows she is shielding someone. Viola Green, to whom did Dorothy Dale make that promise? How should I know? Replied the other with a curled lip. Who, then, is Dorothy Dale shielding? Shielding? Why, probably her dear friend Tavia Travers. I don't know, of course. I'm merely trying to help you out. That shot blazed home. It staggered Miss Crane. She had never thought of Octavia, and she was so close a friend of Dorothy's. Besides being over-reckless, might be that Dorothy was shielding Tavia, and that she would not and could not break a promise made to the absent member of Glenwood School. Miss Crane was silent. She sat there gazing at Viola. Her pink and white cheeks assumed a red tinge. Viola was victorious again. She had only made a suggestion, and that suggestion had done all the rest. I will talk to Mrs. Pangborn, said Miss Crane finally, and she arose and quietly left the room. And here we come to what appears to be the last chapter, the real story. Chapter 23. I'm just going to check the chapter list again. Yeah, because then it goes on to talk about the Ruby and Ruthie series, which doesn't sound like a chapter heading. Chapter 23, the real story. That night before 12 o'clock, a telegram was delivered to Glenwood School. It was for Viola Green and called her to the bedside of her mother. It simply read, "Come at once, mother very ill." So the girl who had been tempting fate, who had refused to right a wrong, who had turned a deaf ear to the pleadings of friends and the commands of superiors, was now summoned to the bedside of the one person in all the world she really loved, her mother. Viola grasped the message from the hands of Mrs. Pangborn herself, who thought to deliver it with as little alarm as possible, but it was not possible to deceive Viola. Instantly she burst into tears and moans with such violence that the principal was obliged to plead with the girl to regard the feelings of those in rooms adjoining hers, because it's the middle of the night, they've been asleep for 2 hours. But this did not affect Viola. She declared her darling little mother would be dead before she could reach her, and even blamed the school that marked the distance between the frantic daughter and the dying parent. How bitterly she moaned and sobbed. What abandon and absolute lack of self-control she displayed, Mrs. Pangborn could not help observing. This was the character Viola had fostered, and this was the character that turned upon her in her grief and refused to offer her sympathy or hope. "You should try to control yourself, Viola," said Mrs. Pangborn gently. "You will make yourself ill and be unfit for travel." But all arguments were without avail. The girl wept herself into hysterics and then finally, overcome with sheer exhaustion, fell into a troubled sleep. On the first train the next morning, Viola left Glenwood. It was Dorothy who helped her dress and pack, and Dorothy who tried to console her. At one moment it did seem that Dorothy had finally reached the heart of the strange girl, for Viola threw her arms about the one who had made such sacrifices for an unrelenting pride, and begged that she would pray that the sick mother might be spared. "If she's only left to me a little longer," pleaded Viola, "I will try to be satisfied and try to do what's right. Oh, I know I have done wrong," she wailed. "I know you have suffered for me, but Dorothy, dear, you did it for my mother, and I will always bless you for it. If I had time today, I would try to clear you before the girls." "Then I will make the explanations," said Dorothy, relieved to feel that at last she might speak for herself. "Oh, please don't," spoke up Viola again, not quite sure that she was willing to be humiliated in spite of the words she had just spoken. "Try to forgive me, and then what does it matter about the others?" So Viola Green passed out of Glenwood and left Dorothy Dale praying that the sick woman might be spared. "I could not do anything against her," Dorothy reflected. "Poor girl, she has enough to bear. It must be righted someday. Oh yes, someday it must all come right. Another power looks after that." A long letter from home from Major Dale was brought to Dorothy on the early mail. This cheered her up and reflected its smiles of happiness on all the school day. The Major told how well the boys were, how they longed to see Dorothy, and how little Roger had saved all his kindergarten cards and pictures for her. Besides these, a wonderful house made of toothpicks and stuck together with green peas was in imminent danger of collapse if Dorothy did not hurry up and come home. Then Aunt Winnie had planned a surprise for all her children who were away at school, the letter also stated, and on the list for the good time promised were Dorothy, Tavia, Nat, Ned, Joe, and of course little Roger, besides a guest that each of these mentioned would be allowed to invite home for the holiday. Easter was only a few weeks off. The day passed quickly indeed. Spring sunshine had come. Everything had that waiting look it takes on just before the buds come, and Dorothy was almost happy. If only everybody could know that she and Tavia had not done wrong and had not been in disgrace. The classes were dismissed, and Dorothy was up in her room reading her father's letter for the third time. There was a rush in the hall. A rush through the hall. Then the girls' voices and laughter stopped exactly at her door. The next minute, Tavia bolted into the room. Tavia, the impulsive one, who has not made promises to anybody. Yes, I know I'm spoiling the story for you, but come on. You've had a chance to read it before now. It's not like it came out last week and I'm giving you spoilers. "Not a soul to meet me," she began, cycloning around and winding up with crushing Dorothy. "Oh, you old honey girl," and Tavia kissed her friend rapturously. "I have been dead and buried without you. Run away, little girls," to those peeping in at the door. "Run away, we're busy." Dorothy was so surprised she just gazed at Tavia, but a world of love and welcome went out in the look. "If we had known you were coming," she faltered. "Known it? Couldn't you feel my presence near? Well, James brought me up, but say, Dorothy, I ran across, whom do you think?" "Couldn't guess." "Viola Green, and say, she looked like her own ghost. Her train had a long wait at noon, and she saw me, and the way she bolted out of her car and made her way to my window just to say, 'Tell Dorothy to go ahead and tell her story.'" That's a turnaround. I did not expect that. "It will be all right. Tell her story, it will be all right." Now, I'd like to know if Viola Green had really gone daffy. Why no, Tavia. It's all about, it's such a long story. The very thing for mine, a cereal. There's Cologne and Ned and Dick. Come on in, everybody. I want you all to see this hat before I take it off. The milliner declared I could never get it on right again. In rushed the troop, all so glad to see Tavia back and all aching for a glimpse of the new spring hat. Tell me about the story, Cologne, said Tavia. You can go on admiring me just the same. What's Dorothy's cereal that Viola has the copyright on? That is precisely what we want you to find out, answered Rosemary. We have been trying to do it for a whole month, and I'll wager it won't take me 10 minutes, said Tavia. But do take your things off, pleaded Dorothy. Not yet, I can't give up this hat so unceremoniously. Isn't it a beauty? But for the story. Go ahead, Cologne. Well, I couldn't tell where to begin, begged off Mary Rose. Begin at the place where Dorothy Dale went to pieces and lost all her pretty pink cheeks, suggested Tavia, noting how much Dorothy had changed during her absence. I'll tell you, said Rosemary. We'll all run away and let you have a minute to yourselves. Perhaps the cereal will... I'll tell you. She's suggesting they all leave the room and let the two girls catch up. Perhaps the cereal will leak out. What is it, Dorothy? Asked Tavia seriously when they were alone. Why, all about that police ride, sighed Dorothy. I never really could find out just what story was told. They kept me in ignorance of it all. Except that it was dreadful. Oh, Tavia, only lately the girls noticed me. They all gave me up, all but Ned, Dick and Cologne. Gave you up? And what about that story? Why didn't you tell them? Oh, I had promised Viola and she was afraid she would be dismissed. Promised Viola? And Tavia stared blankly at Dorothy. You poor little darling, and no one here to take your part? And she held Dorothy to her heart a moment. Who knows the story as she told it? I always knew she would tell it. Perhaps some of the pilgrims may know. They split and formed the Rebs. Without me, I bet they died an early death. I'm the only thoroughbred Reb in America. And she brandished her hatpin wildly above her head. But you just stay here a minute. My 10 minutes allotted for clearing up the mystery is escaping. And at this, Tavia flew out of the room. It seemed she could not have gone down the corridor when she ran into Dorothy's room again. Well, of all the frosts, she exclaimed. I almost passed away when the stuttering girl from Maine tried to tell me, but I haven't seen Mrs. Pangborn yet. I'll just run into the office and show her my hat. And she was gone again. How good to have Tavia back, thought Dorothy. It seemed as if everything had been made right already. But Tavia would surely do something surprising. What would she say to Mrs. Pangborn? But while Dorothy was thinking it over, a very lively little chat was taking place in the principal's office. At the first word about the story, Tavia blurted out the entire tale in such a way that even Mrs. Pangborn was obliged to admit she knew how to string words together. My dear, said that lady when Tavia stopped, I think this matter has gone so far it will be best to make a public explanation. Let me make it, asked the girl eagerly. If you wish, agreed Mrs. Pangborn. Where? When? Asked Tavia impatiently. Now, if you like, consulting her watch. We had called a meeting of the Greenwoods for 5. It wants a quarter of that now. Suppose you speak to them in the hall. Glorious! Exclaimed Tavia. I'm so glad she's got Tavia as a friend, forgetting to whom she was making the self-coined remark. Gloritious, she said. The self-coined remark. The girls were already filing into the hall. Dorothy went with Rosemary, Tavia preferring to go in last and so show everyone the spring hat. It certainly was pretty. No one could deny that, and as she stepped to the platform at the signal from Mrs. Pangborn, she looked as Dorothy had seen her look before, like an actress. Her golden brown hair formed a halo about her face, and the flowers, what she called the spring hat, made a beautiful wreath buried in the soft, shining tresses. A buzz of excitement greeted her appearance on the platform, because girls didn't usually do this. Then she began, My dear teachers, they were all present, friends and acquaintances. 3 cheers for the acquaintances, broke in one girl, and this was the signal for a hearty cheer. When order prevailed again, Tavia continued, I understand you've heard a queer story about the girls from Dalton. There was silence now. And with the kind permission of our dear principal, I will try to tell you all of that story. I have been informed that you were told that Dorothy Dale and myself had been arrested in a country place, taken to a lock-up and then bailed out. Dorothy looked more surprised than anyone present. This was the part of the story she had never heard. Well, went on Tavia, this is so absurd that I cannot imagine the complications that could possibly have won such a story a hearing. But perhaps when I am here a few hours, I will be allowed to laugh over the details. However, I will tell you all exactly what did happen. And Tavia cleared her throat like a veteran speaker. One lovely day last August, Dorothy Dale and her two cousins Ned and Nat White from North Birchland took me for an automobile ride. We had a number of adventures during the day, and towards night something happened to the machine and the boys were obliged to leave us while they went to have something repaired. While they were away, a man who afterward turned out to be a lunatic came along, and as we ran from the car, he got into it. "Oh, mercy!" exclaimed Nita Brandt, and similar exclamations went around the room. "When the boys got back," went on Tavia, "and we felt they never would come in sight, we had waited so long and were so frightened, they could not induce the man to leave the machine. He was crazy and wanted a ride. Finally, one of the boys, Ned, was obliged to get into the car with him, and he rode off, never stopping until he landed the lunatic in Danvers jail." "Cheers again," interrupted the speaker, and she paused a moment, long enough to look at Dorothy, and then she went on. "But we were all alone out there. It was getting dark, and how were we going to get back to town 9 miles off? That was the point where the police patrol wagon came into our lives. The wagon was out looking for the escaped prisoner. At least the officers in it were, and upon questioning us and hearing how we had lost the auto, they asked us to ride home in their patrol." "3 cheers for the officers!" broke out Edna, and the shouts that followed caused Miss Higley to put up her hands to protect her ears. "Well, we did ride home in the patrol," cried Tavia, anxious now to finish, "and when Nat stood by the wagon trying to jolly those curious ones about him, a young man in the company of one who has just left us asked Nat, 'Speeding?' And Nat answered, 'No, just melons.' Now that is the entire story of our famous ride, and I thank you for your kind attention, etc., etc." And bowing profusely, Tavia managed to get down from the platform. Then Mrs. Pangborn stood up. "My dear pupils," she said, "I cannot tell you how glad I am to have this matter settled. It has given great sorrow to see our dear friend Dorothy suffer so, and you do not yet know the real story of her heroism. When I asked her about this report, she begged me not to question her, because she had promised a girl not to tell the story if I would allow her to remain silent. That girl urged as her excuse her own possible dismissal from the school, should Dorothy make known the facts. Not the story that has been told me, told you, but those facts which you have just now heard for the first time. And to save the feelings of a selfish, and I must say it, dishonest girl, Dorothy Dale has willingly suffered your scorn and my possible displeasure, but I never doubted her for one moment. And now we must forgive the other." At this every head was bowed for a moment. When Mrs. Pangborn sat down, the girls surrounded Dorothy. Miss Higley ran to the piano and struck up the Glenwood reel. "Get your partners!" shouted Molly, while there was a wild scramble for another pair of hands, everyone trying to get Dorothy, who had already been possessed of by Miss Crane. Tavia actually took her hat off when Edna caught her. Then the merry dance began, and such dancing! The old hall rang with mirth, broken now and then with wild cheers when Dorothy would go down the middle or swing all hands round. This is a country dance, kind of like Scottish country dancing, where you have a pattern to how the dance is done. It's done as a series of lines or squares, and you have different movements that everybody makes at certain stages. Some of the dances that were in Pride and Prejudice in the beginning, when they're having the entertainment in the community hall, which is where our heroine and her sister meet the opponents, supposedly, at the beginning. it's at this country dance where they're doing country and folk dances rather than the fancy posh ones, which is why there's so much enthusiasm within it. There seemed to be no restrictions, no restraint. Everyone was enjoying herself to her heart's content, and the meeting all ended in the uproarious and a unanimous election of Dorothy Dale as president of the Glenwoods of Glenwood School. What a happy ending to all our troubles, said Dorothy to Tavia that night. If they're all ended, responded Tavia, perhaps everything is not yet smoothed out. If they are all ended, perhaps everything is not yet smoothed out, and what Tavia suspected proved true, as we shall learn in the next volume, to be called Dorothy Dale's Great Secret. Tavia was responsible for the secret, but Dorothy kept it faithfully. A few days later, Mrs. Pangborn received a telegram that Mrs. Green was better and out of danger, at least for the present. Do you imagine Viola will come back to Glenwood? Said Tavia. If she does, I will try to do my best by her, answered Dorothy slowly. You dear, forgiving Dorothy Dale, cried her chum, and kissed her. The end. We know that Viola doesn't want to go to Glenwood, that she wants to go to the posh school. Now that she's left, not because of disgrace, but because now that she's not at the school, not because of disgrace, but because of her mother's health, she may be able to go to the other one and have a reference for her written. That wouldn't be as harsh as if she'd been expelled. So there you go. That's the end of the story. So what's today? Today is Wednesday. I know that because it says it up there, Wednesday in New Zealand. And my chocolate. What chocolate have you got? It's also the 8th of October. Let's have a look at a calendar. Halloween is in 3 weeks and 2 days. I'm just wondering if I'm going to do a week of Halloween and then a week into November, or if I'm going to start 2 weeks ahead. So that's a week and a half from now. I don't know. I really don't know. Anyway, see you all here again in 2 days' time. Because today is Wednesday for me, that means Friday, and Friday will be the last day of my week, and then I'll have a 3-day break. So it was probably Thursday for you guys. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I do have some non-Halloween game sort of things I wouldn't mind looking at with you guys if you're interested in sometime. I don't really want to squish them into the Halloween seasonal stuff and have all decorations and stuff to do with that up here, but it could be kind of like a soft launch, as in just getting us into the right mood for it on the way towards Halloween. I don't know. It's a bit of a conundrum. What do you think? Shall I do a little bit of extra game sort of thing, or shall I carry on with more stories? I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing more stories. It's lovely to have them. I do enjoy a story. Do enjoy a good story. This one was a lot more exciting than I was expecting it to be. And it's nice to know that the Dorothy Dale series has got that little bit of extra oomph instead of just being a little bit meh. Oh, did you like the hats? Let's bring back an illustration. Illustrations, books, not this one. Don't need that one. That one's kind of got nice hats in it. These fancy hats. Very Edwardian. No, it's the only one that's got the hats. So, yeah. They did fancy hats back then. Let's see if I can show you. So, in this, just so you know, Just trying to get it so it's big enough for you to see. So this would be Tavia, because it's a very simple hat. And they talked about her wearing a sailor, a straw hat. That was a sailor hat. They've all got their hair pulled up and tucked in, although Tavia's is cut shorter, so therefore it's probably just combed back slightly, or it's just the way it's sitting. But you can see all the ruffles and bows and bits and pieces on this. So Tavia's one, when she came back to school, is probably along those lines. It's a fancy hat instead of the simple cheap ones that she has been afforded up until now. So, yeah, if you're interested, that other things, this one here appears to be wearing a dress that has a leg of mutton sleeve, which is where it is narrow here and puffed out from the shoulder and then tapers down to that narrow forearm. Very, very, very popular in the Edwardian period. The Edwardian period is after the Victorian period, and I don't know what they were called in the States, but they talk about Victorian houses over there, even though Queen Victoria was not Queen of the USA at the time, so I don't know. And this one here, it comes down, it's broader, her jacket is broader on the top, on the shoulders, it's slightly puffed on the tops of the sleeves, then the jacket is fitted down to her waist, which is why it pulls in here, and then it flares out again because they are wearing slightly puffier skirts than what we tend to wear these days. And it just sort of sits, so you've got this shape that comes like this and then it comes out nicely. Gorgeous styling, but not sort of thing I would want to wear. Very, very warm in summer. Lots and lots of layers. Anyway, so yeah, have a look at Victorian and Edwardian clothing styles. And specifically Edwardian, if you're looking for this era, the very, very beginning of the 20th century, the 1900s. So there you go. There's your little challenge for the way